Welcome, everybody. And I'm already screwing up, and that's okay. We'll get rid of that for a second. Welcome, everybody, to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I am running the ones and twos tonight as Cottrell is, in the words of, what's that? Andy Sandberg. He's on a boat, but that's okay. We got an action-packed show for you tonight. I am the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. And to my right, I have Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, the U of M, Mr. William Shallcross.
What's going on, brother? Welcome to the train wreck. We're here. Two-man show. Caribbean Cottrell is floating around in the ocean somewhere. But we're gonna lock it down. We're gonna have a great show tonight.
We're gonna lock it up. Lock it up. You lock it up. You lock it up. But we got a lot to get into. We got NFL action. We're gonna talk about recap. We got a little hot stove for you tonight. A little back and forth debate action. Then we're going to preview this upcoming week, all the things that are happening, all the playoff scenarios, the big games this week. Then we got college football, right? I felt like we haven't had a real good college conversation on this show. You guys have them every week, Saturdays on Coast to Coast. But on this show, we haven't had a good college football conversation in a while. I'm ready for it. I might say that the words I hate saying because I'm picking them, but that's okay. We're going to get a lot into that. We're going to talk about both college football playoff games. We'll give you somewhat an update on Bowl Mania. While Cottrell is out, we miss him. The show must go on. So let's get started recapping last week's action in the NFL. And what other place to start than the game of the year, apparently. The Baltimore Ravens felt super disrespected by the 5.5, 6-point spread. Went into San Francisco, turned Brock Purdy and the 49ers over 5 times. Absolutely dominated the game. Offense moved the ball. Defense stole the ball. The question then was asked after the game about Brock Purdy. Is he a system quarterback? Is this success not sustainable? Did the Baltimore Ravens expose Brock Purdy? I personally think it was just a bad game, right? Like, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to get on the show and be like, nope, he stinks now. He had a bad game. The guy had 7 interceptions all year. He had 4 last week. I mean, can it just be a bad game?
I tend to agree with you. I think it's more on the bad game side. I'm not going to call him a system quarterback because I think we've seen enough from him at this point to know that that's not true. So I don't really want to get there. I don't want to go into that narrative and go down that road. People are saying, anybody could play for Kyle Shanahan, and on the face of that, I think there's some truth in it. Because Kyle Shanahan is that much of an offensive genius that I think he can make a lot of people look good. That being said, yeah, does playing Kyle Shanahan's system an advantage for a quarterback? Absolutely. He has an amazing roster around him, but I think he's done enough the last year and a half, and we've talked about him so many times. Once he got the starting job, I think he gets to earn the benefit of the doubt. See what he does this week. I think Baltimore came in, like you said, and felt extremely disrespected. And I think Baltimore came in and made a freaking statement. You have to give them, tip your cap to them, all the credit in the world to go on the road across the country, go play the team that I think a lot of pundits and a lot of analysts were saying, hey, San Francisco passed the Eagles. They're steamrolling everybody now. They're going to walk into the Super Bowl. And Baltimore said they're going to have to play us again, and we're going to show you what's going to happen. And Baltimore went in there and laid the wood to them. That's the best way you can put it. Offensively, defensively, they dominated. They dominated that football game. I know a lot of 49ers are trying to say this, and that. I'm telling you now, take your beating. That it happens to every team. It's happened to us. It's happened to the Cowboys, all the other good teams that are going to make the playoffs. It's happened to this year, including the 49ers. Take your beating, regroup, and move on. There's no officiating excuses. There's no, a bad bounce here. You guys got dominated in every facet of the game. Baltimore got off the bus, kicked your ass, and got back on the bus and left. And it's okay. It's the NFL. It happens. but that's what it was. Baltimore made a statement that I think you have to look at and say they are definitely, if not they're definitely the best team in the AFC. I think that discussion is laid to rest. They're still gonna have to go out and prove it and beat a couple good teams to get to the Super Bowl, but the Super Bowl is going to run through. For the AFC side, is going to run through Baltimore. They're a damn good football team. We've talked about some of the signings. We've talked about the Roquan, how big that signing was last year when they got him and they traded for him. That guy's playing out of his mind. That defense looks like it kind of did 3 years ago when everybody was healthy and they were balling out. And they just went into a good game plan and won. Excuse me.
So I want to read you something real quick from the game and just kind of want to. So 429 total yards to 343, 308 passing to 241, 121 rushing to 102. 10 penalties for 102 yards versus 6 for 667. Time of possession even. Did you know that all the higher numbers were San Francisco?
I believe that. Because, Baltimore was playing inside the 40 all game. You can't – that's the other thing.
5-0.
Yeah. And that is the big one. How many times do we talk about that? I think when the turnover margin's like +2 in one direction, teams win like 80-some% of the time. 5-0. It's probably – I'm sure somebody did it somewhere back in the day, so it's probably 99.9, but there's the one outlier game somewhere, I'm sure. But, you can't put Lamar Jackson and that team on your own 40-yard line when you keep throwing the ball or throwing interceptions and expect to win the game. So the numbers don't surprise me because they kept giving them short fields. It's not like they were turning the ball over at Baltimore's 5 and making them go 95 yards every time. And the defense got tired. And if there was one concern for me, honestly, I think Brock Purdy had a bad game. C-Mac still looked good. Debo and Ayuk's numbers were a little bit inflated at the end because they were.
I'm just glad Debo didn't have a good game because I'm in 5. So hold on, let me just break this down. I was in 7 fantasy football money leagues. I made the playoffs in 6 of them. I am in the finals in 3. Now, it does hurt knowing that my brother, my compadre, beat me in 1 in the softball finals. I will not be representing. And I almost came back. Like I see myself inching back near the end, but I got a lot of injury bug in that one. But I was going against Debo Samuel in 2 of them down the stretch. And I was praying. When Debo dropped the ball or he get tackled, I had CMC. I was down 7. He had Debo Samuel in my big money league. And let's go. CMC handled business. Did it for us.
CMC was a kind of a conundrum for me this week because I have him in 2 leagues. Then obviously I was going against you who had him in the other league. So there was a happy medium of me
wanting him to score, but not too much.
Yeah. It was a not a comfortable weekend for me with CMC. I had you had him against me, and then in my big money league, I have him, which I got by the skin of my teeth in that one as well. So I'm in the finals in that one again. But fantasy was an interesting week. It was an interesting week. But back to my other point, for me personally, if I was a 49ers fan, I wouldn't even be that concerned with the offensive side of the ball. Because, again, I think it's a throwaway game. I think it's a bad Brock Purdy game. See, they did run the ball well. Like, CMC still played well. The running part, obviously, the Trent Jones injury is a little bit concerning. The defensive side of the ball would be concerning for me if I was San Francisco. They didn't adjust to anything. I don't know how many times they left, they wanted to leave a spy on Lamar sometimes, and sometimes they didn't, but they would blitz and not get there. They didn't check a shallow cross the entire game.
I don't think their defense looked that bad. I think the 5 turnovers in the short fields made it look worse than what it was. I really don't think their defense looked that bad. I don't
think they look bad. I think for me, just like I said, the concerning part for me would have been lack of adjustment. Obviously, in the game, they were gassed. They were tired. They were on the field, a lot. And again, when you're in short fields and you give like a 10-yard play, it looks like it's way worse than it is, to your point, because you go from like the 20 to the 30 to the 20, and it's like the end of the world, but it's really not. But it was just a lack of adjustments. Like I said, I mean, it was like anytime Baltimore needed anything, they were like, we're just going to run a shallow cross. And it was like 10-yard gain, 12-yard gain, like every single time. They didn't never check to it once. But again, if I'm not the 49ers, I'm not overly concerned unless you see it again this week.
They're playing at Washington this week, but we'll talk about that. I actually don't think we'll talk about that. I think they're going to run through Washington. I think we'll have a conversation the last week of the season when they play the Los Angeles Rams, who are really actually moving in the right direction. But I want to move to two other games that happened on Christmas Day. It sounds crazy, and maybe it's because they're fresh in my mind. But can we just sign the contract? Can we just make it official? Antonio Pierce needs to be the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Like yesterday.
Said it in the group chat as soon as it happened. And the thing that I think I'm happy about, and I know you are too, because you were a big Rich guy when it happened about giving him the job, and obviously they went the other way with McDaniels. The national media now has jumped on it this time, and all of them are like, Antonio Pierce has to be the head coach of this football team. Antonio Pierce needs to get a shot to be the head football coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm glad to see that aspect of it. There's going to be a lot of national, I don't want to say pressure, but there's going to be a lot of national coverage and a lot of national eyes on what Mark Davis and the Raiders decide to do. How many people have gone into Arrowhead and beat Patrick Mahomes since he's been started? It's like 3, I think.
I get it, but like, is it borderline? And I'm not trying to be that guy, right? Like, you guys know I bring this up way too much, but is it borderline racist if they don't hire him? Like, I feel like the Las Vegas Raiders organization constantly makes this move from the African-American coach that's doing a great job to hiring the white guy from like the New England Patriots organization. Like, I can't stand that. It drives me up a wall. Rich Bisaccio, it's happened in the past with them. The way they handled the Flores interview situation, as well as the Broncos, I don't get it. I don't get it. And if Antonio Pierce doesn't get this job after what he's done with that Raiders organization, blowing out the Chargers, going into Arrowhead, beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, it just, I don't know if I'll be able to contain myself. Every year we talk about this. Every year, Bill, we talk about how many overqualified African-American coaches there are waiting in the wings and how many guys that like you've never heard of that get hired. And we've heard of them, right? Like, we're guys that like are really into the game, but like, how many people knew who Matt Eberflus was before he got hired? Did the average guy know Nick Sirianni? I'm not saying Sirianni shouldn't have got hired, but like, how many retread coaches get fired from an organization? And look, we all love Frank, but Frank got fired from a situation in Indianapolis, got hired in Carolina. He's already fired when Steve Wilkes had that team playing inspired football down the stretch. And it lends the question, why does it happen so often? Why is that hot topic name, and by the way, Eric Bieniemy, I felt like he went into Washington and proved himself. That Washington offense, albeit Howell has been bad down the stretch, but that Washington offense moved the ball all year. There was scheming. There was creativity. Brian Flores has turned a no-name Minnesota Vikings defense into an actually good defense. You can look all across the league. Steve Wilkes continued DeMeco Ryans' dominance with that San Francisco 49ers defense. There are guys across the league that deserve the opportunity. Jim Caldwell was a one-and-done coach. The guy took the Lions to the playoffs.
Made the playoffs.
Exactly.
And I mean, Lovie Smith is I don't want to say the outlier. I think he was the first one, because you look at where that team, that organization has gone since he left, and I think that is one of the more tragic ones. So here's what I'll tell you. I don't like, and you know me, and I don't like to make blanket statements. So that is my, not, I don't want to say the problem, because that's not the right word for this. I don't think it's appropriate to make a blanket statement in regards to the racism and the hiring of coaches. What I will say is I think it is absolutely accurate in certain head coach searches and situations, and we've seen it. So I will say this. If the Raiders do not hire Antonio Pierce, I think that's a bullseye one. I think
that's my point. That's all I'm asking. I'm saying if we don't hire him, like it's like, what are we doing? Even if you give him 1 year listen, if he shits the bed, he goes 6-11, okay. But like he's earned the opportunity.
I think you have to. I think it's always a case-by-case basis. I think you brought up a lot of the good ones too. I think there's no way that Brian Flores can't be isn't a head coach in this league again next year. Adam Schefter, again this week, his number has not come down from 10. He thinks it's going to be 10. You can't tell me there's going to be 10 other better head coaching candidates than Brian Flores available this year for one of these franchises to take. That's a great name. Antonio Pierce, we've already talked about. Steve Wilkes, I think, is an interesting name. That situation was different because I think they wanted to bring in a guy who was kind of known as a quarterback guru because they knew they were taking quarterback number one. So while I'm completely on board with you saying Steve Wilkes deserved a shot at that job.
Why hire him for 1 year? Oh, you're talking about for Carolina. I'm talking about the way Steve Wilkes was treating Arizona. Like, I was talking about the Carolina thing, but like Steve Wilkes got a half a year, like basically a year in Arizona before he was let go, and they hired Cliff Kingsbury, who got 5 and did nothing with it. And then he went to Carolina as the DC. Obviously, they fired the head coach. He's got that team playing good football, and they go, nah, we're not even. They interviewed him, but they're like, nah, we're gonna go with Frank Wright. And I get it, I understand. I like Frank too. I do, but like we had Leftwich that was sitting waiting in the wings that never got his opportunity. Obviously, at least Todd Bowles got it.
I feel like Brian Leftwich was in a really tough spot in Tampa Bay because it was either sit there another year and kind of, I don't want to say take your medicine, but kind of be like, or leave and put yourself out there and see if you can get a job. Byron Leftwich will obviously get a lot of looks this offseason. I'm very curious to see what happens in Washington because I think we all agree Rivera is not coming back. So is Eric Bieniemy just a coach in waiting, and do you let him go out and get a goddamn quarterback on that team finally? Because they have weapons. You have Brian Robinson Jr., who's turned out to be a very good running back in the NFL.
Yeah.
You still have Terry McLaurin. You still have Curtis Samuel. You still have all those guys. John, you have all those guys. You got to rebuild the defense a little bit, but you got to get him a quarterback. And that's the case for all these guys. I mean, if you go into a bad situation, the way this league is run now, and you don't have a quarterback, you're just kind of a dead man walking. Like you're just not. These teams are too good now. There's too much parity. We'll talk about that later, but there's too much parity now that week in, week out, you're just not going to walk through anybody's teams anymore. You can't work magic every year. Every week with some middle of the road quarterback. If you want these guys to be elite coaches and take your team to the next level, you got to give them the tools to succeed. I get it, man. But look at the quarterback carousel they've had in Washington. Sam Howell, Heineke, Carson. I mean, it's like, what are we doing? Like, and to some defense, it's kind of why to some degree I feel bad for Ron Rivera. Like, he never really had one either. But I think you got to make a change there.
Bill, but my question would be this, right? As we're headed into a crazy offseason of a lot of situations where people are going to be moving. So for instance, you're looking at Chicago, right? If I branded this quote and sold these shirts, how many of y'all would buy them? Because I am telling you guys, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Marry the coach to the quarterback. Marry the coach to the quarterback. That's my saying, guys. And I'll say it again. The Chicago Bears are a dumpster fire. I know Damian Hernandez is in the chat, and he knows the Bears are a dumpster fire. If you go back to what they did, they had John Fox as their coach. They let him sit in a lame duck year, and they drafted Mitchell Trubisky. They hired Matt Nagy 1 year into Mitchell Trubisky being drafted. He didn't work out. Matt Nagy's lame duck year, his last year, they draft Justin Fields. They have Matt Nagy get fired. They hire another coach that doesn't marry to the quarterback. And now we're in the position again, right? Are we going to fire Eberflus? Or are you going to let Eberflus draft Caleb Williams, stink next year, and then have another situation where you're hiring a coach that's not married to the quarterback? You have to marry the coach to the quarterback. That's the whole problem that happened in Carolina. They hired Frank. He didn't want Bryce. He wanted CJ. And they fired every single person that the owner is like, nope, I want Bryce. And I'm not saying Bryce won't be good. What I'm saying is Frank wanted CJ. And like Deuce wanted CJ. And they fired every single coach that wanted CJ because they're like, we're taking Bryce and you guys are going to figure it out. And that's not what you do in the NFL. That's why these organizations are ran so poorly.
I don't disagree with anything he said. Like I said, I think Chicago is the very interesting one to look at. Are they going to trade Justin? Are they going to keep him? If they keep him, I agree with you. If they keep him, then the guy that has to come in has to say, I am building my offense around Justin. Justin is the guy we are keeping here. And then we're either trading out of one or we're drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. or we're doing something else, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be.
You remember the last time we did a show? It was just me and you. We did a Jason Tatum or.
Yes, I actually thought about it today because I was actually thinking, the last time we did this, we were still back in the Toxic Studios. That's how long ago it was.
So I'm going to give you the same thing with Justin Fields. And I'm going to say, if you're starting a franchise tomorrow.
All right.
And like everybody's the same age that they are right now. And we're going to play Justin Fields or who you'd rather start the franchise with. Justin Fields or Kyler Murray?
Justin Fields.
That's not close, right?
Not to me.
Justin Fields or Jared Goff?
That one's tough.
It's not supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be easy. They're all not supposed to be easy.
I know. I mean, obviously, if you would ask me this 2 years ago, the answer would be Fields. I think Jared Goff has, kind of shown what he really is now. I would lean slightly Goff on that one, but it's close.
I would take Fields.
Okay.
Justin Fields or Geno Smith?
Oh my, Justin Fields.
So what? All right. So the way you answered that question, you have Justin Fields as a top 15 quarterback. I'll continue. Yes. Justin Fields or Tua Tagovailoa? I know you don't like Tua.
I don't. And I would say this. I think Miami is just as good, if not maybe even better, if Justin Fields was the quarterback there. I will go if I had to put them on the same neutral team, not because I think Tua is very good because of how they handle him in Miami with what he has. I think if you put them both on, I think if you put Tua on Chicago, I think Tua would be dead. I'll go.
Well, I'm asking you, if you're starting a franchise, who are you taking?
I'll go Justin Fields.
Okay, that's essentially you're saying you take Jared Goff over Tua.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin Fields or Dakota Rain Prescott?
I'm taking Justin Fields.
Okay. I'm taking Dak right now. I don't want to lie to you. I'm taking Dak. I'm taking Tua over Justin right now. They're just more proven. I'll give you three more and then we'll stop, right? And the last one's going to be the fun one, and then we'll get it back in the recaps. So Justin Fields or currently constructed Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I mean, it's Justin. I mean, peak, it's Russ, but that whole thing's a dumpster fire. I'm assuming that's going to come up later, probably at some point too. But
Justin Fields or CJ Stroud?
I'm taking CJ.
Okay. Last one, and this is the most important one. Justin Fields or Caleb Williams? It's the most important one because that's the decision the Bears need to make. Now, I think the benefit of Caleb Williams, and I think the reason the Bears will do that is they can restart their quarterback cycle as far as finances, as far as spending money.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, this gets back into a lot of this is going to depend on the coach. But are you better ripping Justin out of there, signing Caleb obviously to a rookie deal, which will be a little bit cheaper? Or are you better keeping Justin, building around him, getting him another weapon, and also getting draft capital and probably picking up another top 10 pick in this draft by trading back for whoever really wants Caleb. I personally go that route. I think if you can get a Flores or you can lure Jim Harbaugh away from Michigan, somebody who knows, who literally is walking in that building and knows what he has in front of him and can plan an offense around him, I think you'll see that Justin Fields is capable of being what we all think he is.
Can I give you a dream scenario for me? You know, sure. I'm a Justin Fields fan. You understand that, right? I hate being a Justin Fields fan because he's an Ohio State kid, but I love him. I'm a huge fan. I'm going to give you my dream scenario. The Atlanta Falcons fire their head coach. The Chicago Bears trade Justin Fields to the Atlanta Falcons. And you have the Falcons who hire, and guys, I understand this might sound crazy to you, okay? I understand it, right? But if the Atlanta Falcons hire Bobby Slowick, who's the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, as their next head coach, the one that's been developing CJ Stroud. D'Amico Ryans is their head coach. He's a defensive head coach. I know CJ's good, but the offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, is helping develop CJ Stroud. I want him badly. Fields to Atlanta with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, that defense, Slowick. That's my hire. That's what I do.
I mean, I think Justin at some point would probably welcome it. I also think Justin wants to win in Chicago. I think Justin wants to prove that he was.
The door's closed. Did you hear the interview he had recently? He said, I gave Chicago everything I had. In past tense, I gave Chicago everything I had.
I get that, but we all know how people change or tune after an off season. Like don't tell me if Justin Fields is walking in the building next year and they're like, hey, we just drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. Now it's Marvin Harrison Jr., Fields, DJ Moore. Oh, hell, by the way, Jim Harbaugh is your head coach now. His tune's going to change a lot. And again, I think that has a lot to do with, I think Matt Eberflus came in and Justin Fields is like this guy doesn't know even more than I do. Like you
know, freaking out in the chat. He does not want to trade Justin Fields. He's on the same boat I'm on.
Listen. I'm gonna. He's right. His not the hell no one. The previous, not the one before that one either. Drafted Caleb wouldn't make sense
because the Bears don't know how to develop quarterbacks.
That's true
at all.
All you're doing is starting the cycle over again. Because here's my worst fear. You gave best case scenario. Here's my worst fear. They trade Fields. They don't fire Eberflus, and they hire Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams got to be like.
But that would be the same thing. That would be Groundhog Day for Atlanta.
Yes,
for Chicago. It'd be the third time that they put a quarterback, a rookie quarterback, with a coach on a lame duck deal. Be the third time.
Correct. Because I'll tell you right now, if you start next year with that team, the way it's constructed with a rookie quarterback, they're going to be the same team. And then he's going to get fired. And then you're going to bring another head guy in. If you want,
don't know if he loves Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams could have that bad rookie season like Trevor Lawrence did, like Justin Fields did. Like he could have that bad rookie season, and then you have another coach who says, I don't think he's the guy, and isn't married to him. And that Chicago Bears franchise is just ruining that team. And by the way, I want to make something very clear. Everyone says get Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't see any scenario in which Chicago gets Marvin Harrison Jr. and keeps Justin Fields. Let me explain to you what I mean. If they have the first overall pick, the Chicago Bears are trading that pick back. If they make the decision to keep Justin Fields, you never, ever, ever are the first overall pick and don't use it on a quarterback ever again. In the history of football, don't do it anymore. You get as much capital as possible. I got news for you, Bill. I didn't think this was accurate. The first 4 picks in this next draft might be quarterbacks. All 4 of them. Think about it real quick. Just think about the people that are in that position now. Watch this. Ready? We talked about this morning on Coffee and Sports. The Bears could draft Caleb Williams. Is that accurate?
Yep,
do you think the Arizona Cardinals could draft a quarterback at 2?
No.
Okay. How about the New England Patriots at 3?
I think they're going quarterback.
How about the Commanders at 4?
We just talked about it. They need a quarterback.
But you look. How about Atlanta? If Atlanta doesn't have a quarterback, they're at 10 right now. They could move up.
Yeah, they need a quarterback. The answer for them.
What about the Giants?
Giants is a tricky situation because they got to pay Daniel Jones $40 million no matter what they do. That is.
But get out of it after next year. They could draft a quarterback, let him sit behind Daniel for 1 year.
I think it's gonna be hard to make. That is the tough spot for the Giants because I don't think you can draft somebody who is going to be the guy the following year and put up with Daniel Jones BS. And at that point,
how amazing is that, by the way, that the Giants won't be good for at least 3 years?
Suck.
Like, I love that. How great is that? Giants fans, I hope that you're watching this and you're listening in your head and you're saying to yourself, there's no way we're good for 3 more years because next year they can't be good. They got to pay Daniel Jones $40 million.
Well, and they're probably going to lose Saquon after that. So, I mean, they are definitely staring down an issue.
What? Come on, Damian. I love you. Your comments have been great. You said this quarterback class is boring. Other than J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix, there's no top name in this draft class. What?
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that at all. Caleb Williams, Drake May. Listen, I'll tell you right now, New Orleans' next quarterback, I said it this morning, I'll say it again, Mr. Heisman from LSU stays in NOLA.
I don't know. Depending on where New Orleans ends up in the draft, I don't think he's
going to 7th or 8th right now.
Maybe. I will. Listen. I've said this from the get-go. I think Caleb is the only, if you want to say sure thing, and I hate saying that, but I think a lot of these guys are being blown up more than they should be, and that includes my guy. A lot of people have him going 9th, and I'm telling you that's not where he should go. I think Jaden Daniels has enormous holes in his game. Yeah. I think Drake May does. I know JJ does. All these guys, I'm telling you, if I'm taking a quarterback, and that's really what you want to do, then I think you have to sell your soul to get Caleb, because after that, all these guys are going to tell you that there's not a drop. I'm telling you there's a drop. And it's a bigger drop than anybody wants to go on TV and say. There's Caleb and there's everybody else in this draft. If I'm sitting there 2 or 3, I don't want Drake May. I'll go on record saying that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Hold on. I'm going to read you what Tankathon has right now. I just want to read you. They have Caleb Williams going 1, Marvin Harrison going 2 to Arizona, Drake May going 3 to Washington, Jaden Daniels going 4 to New England. And then the next quarterback they have going off the board is Bo Nix, 19 to the Buccaneers, which, by the way, has Baker not earned another year? Has Baker not earned not drafting a quarterback? Has Baker not done that job yet? Come on, man. I'm bought in.
If they win Sunday, they clinch a playoff spot. I don't know how you don't give Baker another year. I mean, that's because, again, are you going Baker, or are you going to take a team that is clearly that stayed finally healthy this year and been a lot better than a lot of people expected them to be, and you're gonna run who are you gonna run out there as your starter?
They said Bo Nix.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, I'm with you. Mister couldn't get it done in the 2 biggest games.
Baker, and I'm telling you right now, Alex, forgive me now, Bo Nix is not going to be a good NFL quarterback.
I don't think he is either. All right, let's get back to recaps. I know we got a little off the tangent talking about Antonio Pierce, what led into a lot of different things. But I just do want to cover a couple more games. The Dallas Cowboys made my Christmas Eve so special. It was so heartwarming, and I appreciate you fans down in Dallas. Because on Christmas Eve, I was sitting around the dinner table with my family watching the Dallas Cowboys lose a football game in just Dallas Cowboy fashion. Tony Pollard is at the 1-yard line and gets ragdolled backwards. And the next play, they hand it to the fullback, who fumbles it 4 yards backwards. It was incredible. I loved every moment of it. I have a poster of Mike McDaniel in my living room now. I said fins up this morning. Maybe. What are your thoughts on Miami versus Dallas?
I picked Miami on the show. I thought it was going to be a closer game, kind of like it was. And kind of for the same reasons. I think Tua had a good game. Tyreek obviously showed up and played. Jalen was having a really good game until he got hurt. He got hurt twice actually. But listen, Dallas is starting to fall into that category. They are a drastically different team away from Dallas. They just don't play well on the road. They don't. Call it for whatever you want. Call it whatever you will. Thought Miami's defense played very good. Bradley Chubb had a great game up front. Constant pressure on Dak. You mentioned the play with Pollard. I felt like every really big moment in that game, or a moment where like the team that was more physical mattered, like the Pollard play and stuff like that, I feel like Miami came out on top on almost all of them. I think that's why they won the football game. I think I might have, maybe underrated Miami a little bit, but, I also think at the end of the day, I think it's, other than maybe CeeDee Lamb, like who are you going to point out on the offense had a good game for Dallas?
No, that's it. CeeDee Lamb. You're absolutely
That's
right.
it.
Two more recaps we want to get into, and because of the significance of it. Amari Cooper and Joe Flacco. Are you kidding me? 11 catches for 260 yards. Joe Flacco turning back the clock. Mr. 39 going on 40. Joey Flacco. Can the Cleveland Browns win a playoff game?
Yeah. I think
you say that with such confidence. I don't think they can beat any of the division winners with the exception of at Jacksonville or at the AFC South, whoever wins that division at this point. But they're not beat. They're going to be a wild card because the Ravens are going to be the division winner. So they're going to either play at Miami, at Buffalo, at Kansas City, or at.
I think as it sits right now, they would go to Jacksonville.
Correct, and that would be the game that they could win. But are you picking them to beat Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville in a playoff game?
The way they look right now, yeah, I would.
Wow.
Defense travels.
You're
defense
right.
Travels. Defense travels, and that defense travels. I think the funniest part of this is every Joe Flacco win, every Joe Flacco great performance, every Joe Flacco, highlight that continues to carry this team down the stretch, the worse and the worse and the worse that Deshaun Watson contract looks.
Oh my God. It's so funny to say that. There's nothing they can do about it. The Cleveland Browns organization is going to say,
they're screwed. They're screwed.
Their organization is going to go very simple. Nope. Deshaun's our guy. He was 5-1 and he'll be back next year. And this is just Joe's doing a great job filling in. And that's what you're going to hear from Cleveland.
Joe Flacco is at the beginning stages of the Kurt Warner bagging groceries at the supermarket storyline right now. That's where we're at.
He's 39.
Yeah, but they did. They drug him out of nowhere. The dude was sitting on his couch, not doing anything.
Wouldn't it be great if the Browns won the Super Bowl with Flacco? That'd be the greatest thing ever.
Oh my God.
I'd be so happy.
I know Cottrell won't admit this, but he'd be over the moon because the Browns won the Super Bowl, and that's all that would matter at the end of the day. But the realization of what would have to happen after that and down the road, what's going to happen would be hysterical for everybody else to watch.
I would love it. I would love everybody. I see, because I look at Brown, and I'll talk about this real simple. I look at Browns football fans the same way I look at Buffalo Bills football fans, the same way I look at Packers football fans and Ravens football fans, hard-nosed, blue-collar fans that deserve a winner. And listen, you say what you want to say about Philadelphia Eagles fans, but those are the fan bases that we relate to most.
Yeah.
Like Dog Pound, the Bills Mafia.
Yeah, blue collar, Northeast, cold type fans show up when it's minus 40. Don't care, don't get to sit down in Miami in January and show up in t-shirts and shorts. That's not football weather in January. Football weather in January, obviously the tough guys when it's snowing and minus 10, they come out with no sleeves on. That's football. That's playoff football. That's you got the Buffalo linemen when there's a foot of snow on the field and they only plow off every 10-yard line, so you know where the hell they are on the field. And those guys are out there with no sleeves on. That's playoff football. That's what I want to see. I don't want Arizona in their controlled environment in their dome in January when it's 82 degrees outside.
And he's very upset that you talked about Miami.
What about? I didn't say anything bad about Miami.
Well, not a good controlled environment. He said he does.
Listen. If I can show up to a playoff game in January in sandals, khaki shorts, and a t-shirt, and drink a Mai Tai, that's not playoff weather. Sorry. Sorry. I can't get on with that. I would have to put on 9 layers to go to the link, have to drink alcohol to stay warm. That's what I want in playoff football. I want people jumping off.
How red does your face get during playoff football?
Oh, bro. Like, if I'm in there yelling, it's like tomato. Like, let's go. Like, it doesn't matter. I look like Tampa Bay's jersey.
We got to get Paul out of the chat. He's got to go. He said you want your Super Bowl played in Arizona in a controlled environment, though. No, I don't.
No, I don't.
Not after that friggin' debacle last year.
Yeah.
No.
Turfgate. Yeah.
The last thing we got to recap because we got to move. Even though I love talking football with you, dude. But Broncos country last ride. Russell Wilson has been benched. Sean Payton made it very clear 2 weeks ago when he screamed at Russ in the middle of the field. And now they're benching him for Jarrett Stidham. I think that's hilarious. Is that not one of the funniest things that you've seen? All the capital they gave up, they bring in Nathaniel Hackett and Sean Payton. Where does Russ play quarterback next year?
My issue with it is this, and I'm not going to say that he hasn't looked bad in certain games this year. He's also looked a lot better than the majority of the team in a lot of the games this year. He hasn't. He's not Seattle Russ. I think those days are over. I think that the beatings he took, in all those years in Seattle and playing hero ball, which he had to do, I think that all caught up to him. That being said, if you watch a Denver Broncos football game and watch the plays they run, we talk about this all the time. I find it very hard to believe that every read or everything that's going wrong with that offense is Russell Wilson's problem. I know Sean Payton is a very stubborn guy. He's shown that over and over. I think a lot of the systems and the schemes that he's running.
I'm getting a trademark, Derek. Marry the coach to the quarterback.
Correct.
Getting trademarked. Would you buy a shirt? I need everyone that knows me to buy this shirt. I got to get Kurt. Somebody tag Kurt in the comments. Kurt Hensman, tag him. I got to get Kurt to make the shirt up, and I got to get every one of you guys to buy it. And it's going to be marry the coach to the quarterback. It doesn't work unless you do.
That being said, Sean Payton signed with Denver knowing what he was coming into. Here's my problem with it. You have 3 very good wide receivers on that team. Why is Courtland Sutton constantly upset with, he runs the same route 90% of the time? Jerry Jeudy is one of the best route runners in the NFL. How is he never open? I have a very hard problem putting this all at the feet of Russell Wilson. Does some of it go there? We do this all the time, percentage. Absolutely. Some of it does. Does some of it, or the bigger chunk of it, go to Sean Payton's feet? In my opinion, absolutely it does. The offensive line stinks. They have Javonte Williams, who is a very, he's not elite, but he's a very capable running back. He's very good. They can't run the ball. They can't throw the ball. The defense has bailed them out numerous times this year because that secondary, they're very hard to throw the ball on 90% of the time.
Denver's got like a no-fly zone, man, with PS2.
That's
corners. But they can't stop the run to save their life. They're 31st in the league against the run. They were 32nd, and the Arizona Cardinals surpassed them. And by the way, we play the Arizona Cardinals this week. They're 32nd in the league against the run. If we don't run the freaking football this week, I'm going to the goddamn league, and I'll hold this sign up myself. Better run the damn football. I feel like I'm in that. What's the movie? Blindside. I'm in Blindside, and I'm calling the coach. Enough of the trick plays, Bert. Run the dang ball. Run the dang ball.
We'll talk about the Eagles in a second.
I'm crazy.
No, it's true. We'll talk about that in a second, though. But I think it's I think it's a ballsy move from the head coach when you're 8-7, and if you win out, it's like a 60% chance to make the playoffs, and you're going to pull the plug now?
I think he's doing it. I think he's doing it intentionally. I think he's letting Russ know that. I think he's letting the organization know it's his organization. I'll bet you this, right? And I'll get into it a little bit later. I think the Broncos destroy the Chargers this week. It's probably my best bet. It's probably my best play all week. I think that Jarrett Stidham's going to run the Sean Payton style offense, and all of a sudden it's going to look like a great offense. And Sean's going to be like, well, this is what it could have been happening all year, but Russ isn't the guy. And he's going to use it as leverage to get one of these quarterbacks to Denver next year and get and move on from Russell Wilson. They were never married. They're going to trade him.
I get it. That's fine if it works out that way. If it doesn't, and you got to look 52 other guys in the face and go, we could have.
They don't like him. They don't like Russ. He's one of the most unlikable quarterbacks in football. Marshawn Lynch talks about it on his podcast, where he's talking about how unlikable Russ is.
I get it, but at the same time, dude, you're playing the Chargers, who have given up, who are playing for nothing. Who I don't care what you say about Russ. Russ is going to find a way to win that game. You're still telling the other guys in the field on the team that have played all year, that are hurt, that are doing everything else, that have a shot to play playoff football, which they haven't done in years, that you know what? My gripe with getting Russ out of here is bigger than the sacrifice you guys just made for the last 5 months. That is a very thin line to walk for a head coach.
But I guess you're banking on Stidham going out there and having a good game. I knew Russ was a weirdo when he came out with the Mr. Unlimited, like him and Sierra, like taking video coverage of him signing that massive contract. And then he's like, I got an alter ego. I'm Mr. Unlimited. And the Subway commercials and the standing in the mirror with the Broncos country. He's a weirdo, bro. That guy's weird.
Guy. It's fine. He's a weird guy. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. I mean, listen, if they were before they went on this run, and you make this move, I don't think anybody bats an eye. It's okay. It's not working. They're 4-8. Season's over. You know, we got to do this so we have no problem from the fan base or anybody else to get rid of Russell, eat the money, blah, blah, blah. He won 5 out of 6, gets him in playoff position, has a cakewalk of a game at home against the Chargers. If you win that, I think they have the Raiders the last week. I don't think they even have the Chiefs. I think they have the Raiders. If they're 10-7, they have like almost 70% chance to get into the playoffs. How do you give up on playoff football at this point of the year? That, to me, as a head coach, that you're walking the plank there, man. I'm telling you, if Jarrett Stidham goes out there Sunday and shits the bed, and then a lot of other things that they need to go right for them, and then they don't make the playoff by a game, that is a hard line to walk back for Sean Payton.
You said it earlier. And Derek called you out on it, and I'm going to call you out on it too. I don't think Russ is a Hall of Famer.
He is.
I don't think he is.
All right. I think he
won one Super Bowl.
I only say this. I mean, Brett Favre won one Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers won one Super Bowl.
Yeah, but Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, my point being is, are statistical Hall of Famers. Russ isn't a statistical Hall of Famer.
My point is this. I think, and I only bring this up is because it came up at work last week in the office. You go back and look at that 5-year run that Russ had, and I think a lot of people forget how good his numbers were.
They were good. They were good. I looked at them. I know them.
He won an MVP. I don't think he's a first ballot guy. He gets in though. Russell Wilson's going to be a Hall of Fame. He's going to be a Hall of Fame. He's going to be a Hall of Fame player. He is.
I don't think Russ won an MVP either.
I think he did.
I don't think he did. He has not won the award. I just looked it up. He was in that like finalist with Carson Wentz when the year Brady won it, but he doesn't want it. And by the way, Kyle Edwards just said Eli Manning gets in, Russell better get in. Eli's got 2. It's different. Winning 2 matters.
I get it, but you're still at that point. You're still comparing players and what they did.
Chat, let me know. Is Russell Hall of Famer? Let me know.
Nobody's saying player for player that Eli Manning's a better player than Russell Wilson.
Okay.
Nobody.
Let's get in. You have a couple questions for me.
Yeah.
I want to get into those, and then we'll preview this upcoming week.
All right. Well, we started off on it, so I mean, we'll double back to it. We'll double back right down. After last week, who is your MVP now?
So my MVP. Are you asking? So this is a good question, right? Are you asking my MVP or who I think is going to win the award?
Give me both.
Okay, my MVP is Christian McCaffrey. And by the way, he's now ranked second. I think Christian McCaffrey should win the award. I just think they constantly give it to a quarterback, and that it's become a quarterback award. I've said that all year. But right now, my MVP is Christian McCaffrey. Now, the person that I would put money on right now, plus 1,200, I want to put this out there, guys. Josh Allen. And you might think I'm crazy, right? You got Lamar Jackson has to play Miami this week. If he does not play well and Miami wins that football game, which is highly possible, Buffalo's playing next week to win the division. No, they're not. Miami would lock the division up. Buffalo's playing next week, and Miami wouldn't be playing, so Buffalo would then in turn win out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Josh Allen plus 1,200. Sprinkle a couple hours on it. It's plus 1,200. Guy's got like 40 total touchdowns. He has 83% of his team's offense, which is the highest in the NFL by far. Sprinkle a couple dollars on Josh Allen. Who's your pick, by the way?
I'm sticking with CMC. I think it should have been CMC before this week, and I think it's even more bona fide now. And I think if there was ever a year, to your point, to get away from the quarterback crap and just handing it to a quarterback every year, I think it's this year. I mean, Joe Burrow's been out. Aaron Rodgers has been out. Josh Allen's having a great year. Jalen is not having the year he had last year. Patrick Mahomes is not having a great year. If there was ever a year to step back.
Lamar's the favorite right now, but I don't think statistically he's having a great year.
No, I mean, it's just people are just going to say, oh, he's the best player on the best team, and I hate that freaking argument too.
I do too, but when we get into pick 'em, I think the Baltimore Ravens have a little bit of an emotional letdown this week, and I think you'll see that. I think that the Miami Dolphins go into Baltimore and win that game, but we'll talk about that during preview.
Daniel Dempsey brought up a good point, and I think this goes back to my kind of agreeing with Cottrell last week. You have two guys that are having all-time type seasons, like all-time ever. I think it's really hard to ignore that.
You're talking about what if Hill gets 2,000?
2,000. I mean, McCaffrey's on pace for crazy numbers, and I think
Tyreek Hill.
I get the argument. Okay, you give one of them. Okay, fine. You want to turn around and give one of them the NFL Offensive Player of the Year. That's fine. But then you're still one of them is getting snubbed completely. Then, and I think that's crazy. I don't think that can happen.
To get the MVP and Tyreek Hill to get Offensive Player of the Year if Tyreek Hill wasn't such a piece of garbage.
Yeah, I mean
he's such a bad human being that I can't root for him to do anything. You heard this guy had 3 kids in 4 months, like with 3 different women.
It's been a couple rough weeks for Tyreek Hill's PR guy or woman, whoever he has. I'm not sure who he has, but
I bet you it's a guy. Shocker. But what's your next question?
Next question. It's kind of like a combiner one. So where are we? I'll go the South divisions for both. Who wins? AFC South, NFC South.
Jags Bucks. I think the Buccaneers could lose this week at home to the New Orleans Saints, and they're only 2.5-point favorites. So Vegas is telling you that the Saints are going to win that football game. And I still think that the Bucks end up winning the division. I'll go Bucks and I'll go Jags. The Jags have the Carolina Panthers this week, and then the last week of the season, who do they have? They have Tennessee in Jacksonville. Versus at Tennessee. I believe they play the Titans, who are basically tanking. But let me just see the Jags schedule. They play at the Titans.
At Titans. So the only reason I think the AFC South is interesting because I don't. It's very questionable if Trevor Lawrence even plays this week. So I think obviously if he played this week and they won this week, I think it makes next week a lot easier for Jacksonville. If he doesn't play this week, he hasn't thrown yet. So I mean that's very telling in its own right. I wish that
kid would get healthy, man. He's definitely not healthy. He's got a high ankle sprain, a shoulder issue, a concussion, all in the last 3 weeks.
He's banged up. So I think there's a good shot that he doesn't play this week. And if they somehow lose that game, Carolina coming off a win, It gets real interesting down there because I think the Colts have the Titans at home this week. They should win that game.
And then they play Houston the last week of the season.
Yeah, so that last week will eliminate one of those two teams. Obviously, the Texans or the Colts will get eliminated that week, but that game, at Tennessee.
So who are your picks? I tell you, I have the Jags Bucks. They're my picks.
I'm going to agree with you. I agree with you. I think Tampa Bay is a little bit more set in stone per se, because I know Atlanta plays New Orleans the last week of the year, and I think Tampa Bay, like you said, has Carolina, so that's a cakewalk. I'm going to default to Jacksonville because I think they have the easier schedule, but I think a lot of that depends on Trevor Lawrence's health. If he can't go this week, I think that throws a huge wrench into the whole thing.
I think that the Jaguars could win that game with CJ Beathard in Jacksonville.
They can, but I mean, it's if you're a Jaguars fan,
I think they should. Trevor Lawrence never missed a start in his career, so like they're trying to preserve that. I don't like he's a tough guy. I get it, dude. You're tough.
Yeah.
You played a week after having a high ankle sprain and basically getting carted off the field. I think they should sit him. I really think they should try to get him healthy. Okay. You got no chance at winning any playoff games if Trevor Lawrence isn't healthy.
Let's see. 2 questions left. Who do you think are the last 2 teams to get in both conference?
So that's interesting. I have to look at the standings. The problem is this, right? Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up for you. I mean, you can no longer say the Buffalo Bills, right? Like the Buffalo Bills are going to make the playoffs.
Correct.
I think Buffalo makes it. So I guess the 7 seed in the AFC could be the Cincinnati Bengals, the Raiders. It sounds crazy to say the Raiders. They would need a lot to happen, but they're going to get some help, right? The Colts play the Texans. They can't make it. They really can't. It's very tough for them to make it. The Colts would have to lose this week at home versus the Titans. I guess for shits and giggles, give me the give me the Bengals in the AFC. And in the NFC, I think the Rams back in. I think they're the 7th seed. I think they win this week. I think they lose next week to San Francisco. And
I agree with you on the Rams. I think the Rams are going to back in. I think if San Fran wins this week. Oh no, they would still have to play because they lose. They have to play. So I think AFC is crazy because of all the scenarios. Because like the AFC South, you have 3 teams with the same record. Same thing with the AFC, the AFC West. You have 2 teams with the same record. I want to go to the Bengals, but the Bengals have the Chiefs this week away. I mean, I don't think they're going to win.
They can go 1-1. Who did they play last week of the season? Did they play Pittsburgh again? It's a division game. I just don't know who it is. Let me see who the Bengals play.
They have Cleveland.
Oh wow, that's interesting. It's tough.
I'm actually gonna go.
Can't be the last team, Brandon Bose. They have 10 wins.
Nah, they have 10 wins already.
They won't be the last team.
I'm gonna go with Colts.
Oh, he's saying Cleveland because of the schedule. I get it. Okay. I like the Colts. I love Steichen, man. Look at that offense. It looks like the Eagles' offense last year with lesser players.
Well, yeah, I mean, and they haven't had Richardson for most of the year, so he's done a great job.
I think Minshew's going to do a better job than. By the way, if you don't have one, I'm going to make a statement at the end. But let me get your last question before I make my statement.
So this kind of goes. This is kind of a piggyback question on what we just had. NFL is kind of like clamoring for this for years, and it's finally starting to happen. How good do you think parity is for the NFL going into the last 2 weeks with 23 teams still obviously having a mathematical chance to get into the playoffs?
I mean, I think parity is good. I think it's great. I think it's awesome that there's so many teams that I just think that I want to see real team parity and not feel like gambling organizations and the referees have to do with it. It feels to me like the NFL always knocks teams down a peg. And I'm not saying it's fixed, but it feels it. We can call it parity all you want, but like if you know like a situation's gonna like, dude, remember the last week of last season when I put that parlay together? I'm like, this is what the NFL needs, so I'm gonna put this parlay together and almost hit. Like I shouldn't be able to watch football and be like, well, this is what the NFL needs, so I'm just gonna bet on what the NFL needs and then be right.
I agree, and I will feed into some of that because I feel like a lot of that has kind of been set up for where we are right now. Like, because I mean, there's in the years, even in the last 10 years, there's been 5 or 6 years where we've gone to the last Sunday of the year and like 3 games matter. That's it. And like, half the other teams are playing their third string quarterback. And the last week of the NFL season's almost pointless to watch. Whereas this year, I think you're going to have probably close to 70, 80% of the slate is going to matter to either get into the playoffs or seeding within the playoffs. And again, to Gene's point, that is beneficial for the NFL because the ratings will go through the roof. So I do think it's a good thing because I hate having throwaway weeks, obviously in the regular season of any sport. I hate that. And NFL, it's even more magnified because they only play 1 game a week. So obviously the NBA, the NHL, or Major League Baseball, if you have a team tanking the last 3 games of the season, like nobody really cares. It's different. So I think it's a good thing. I think we're on the right track. Again, I don't like being the tinfoil hat guy, but I think there's a lot of instances you can point to, where what's good for the NFL business has happened kind of at a very, opportune time.
Alarming rate.
The NFL. Yeah.
Since you didn't bring it up, I'm gonna make my statement. I love Dan Campbell, kneecap biting guy. I love D'Amico Ryans. Hey, I'm a huge Shane Steichen guy. Mike McDaniels, very, very innovative offensive guy. Kyle Shanahan's done a great job with the offense over there in San Francisco and all their success. What do those 5 guys have in common? Well, they're the top 5 candidates for Coach of the Year. There's a name missing from that list that should be on that list. And it's Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns. You want to talk about a guy lost his starting right tackle, backup right tackle, starting left tackle, starting all-pro running back, starting quarterback, backup quarterback. He's basically they're on their 4th quarterback, and they have 10 wins. If that doesn't get you Coach of the Year, why? I don't understand. So like I love Shane Steichen, right? Like, but what are the points that you can make for Shane Steichen? Well, he's done all this with a backup quarterback. So does Kevin Stefanski. Well, he's going to get into the playoffs with a backup quarterback. Well, so is Kevin Stefanski. I don't understand how Kevin Stefanski's not the favorite for Coach of the Year. Bo, as you said, I thought Kevin was the front runner, at least on betting sites. I'm looking at 2 betting sites, Vegas Insider being one of them. Last updated December 27th at 5:15 a.m., which is today. And he's 6th. He's plus 1,000. Just a shade of John Harbaugh.
The craziest thing that he could go 12-5 and not get votes. That's crazy. That's crazy. If they win out, they'll be 12-5. That's crazy to me.
And they could win out. They're playing the Jets this week and the Bengals next week.
Like I said, they should win this week. So I mean, again, you're going to sit there 11-6. Losing a top really, in my opinion, really a top 3 running back in the league. Like you said, not only you're both starting left tackle and right tackle, but they're backups. You're on a guy that wasn't even in football in week 8, wasn't even in football week 8, and going to already clinch a playoff berth, could possibly end up with 12 wins. I don't know. Like, especially with coaching, I really feel like it's like who did like the best coaching job? Like Dan Campbell. Okay, great. Like we all love Dan Campbell. Like we all fell in love with him because of Hard Knocks. I would play for that guy. Like I love him. Like if he was an Eagles coach, I would love it. But he's got a talented roster. And he doesn't have, he's not on his 4th, his 3rd running back or his 4th quarterback.
He has a starting quarterback, both starting running backs. His top 3 wide receiver options are all still there.
Yeah.
His offensive line's there. They've been relatively very healthy on defense.
Yeah.
They're getting Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back. What adversity did they go through?
That's what I mean. Like John Harbaugh, to his credit, I think if you wanted to give him to him other years, you could probably justify it more than this year because he's had everybody this year. Like you look at the losses.
7.
I get it.
And you got D'Amico Ryans. He's done a hell of a job coaching. Like
D'Amico, if D'Amico makes the playoffs, to me, that is the one outlier that if you made me vote between the two of them,
that's fine.
I would vote for D'Amico.
But I'm fine with that. If it's between D'Amico and Kevin Stefanski and Shane Steichen, like they're the top 3 candidates, in my opinion. And Steichen's done a great job, but like I want you to understand something real quick. Anything that you can say for Shane Steichen, you can say for Kevin Stefanski, but better. Like I love Steichen. Steichen's an Eagles guy.
Bro, who is weak in the AFC North? You teams that are still 8, 9, and 7 with.
He says a lot of wild stuff. He says a lot of wild stuff.
Like you're talking about.
He said something else earlier. It's hilarious.
You're talking about Cincinnati, who's called back without their franchise quarterback. Pittsburgh, who was always tough, and Baltimore, Cleveland. We're talking about Cleveland maybe winning Coach of the Year, and Baltimore just went in and beat who everybody else thought was the best team in the NFL on their home field and kicked the dog shit out of them. Like the Bengals aren't a weak team. The Bengals were a lot of people's pick to go to the Super Bowl before Joe Burrow got hurt. Like, what are you talking about? Nobody wants to play Pittsburgh in December ever. So I don't agree with any of that.
Time to preview some football games.
Let's go.
Let's start with Saturday night. All right. One game, prime time in Arlington, Texas. The Detroit Lions are going to be kneecap biting at Dallas. Dallas hasn't lost a home game since the Reagan administration. I hate saying it. I like Dallas in this one. But by the way, I think as an Eagles fan, you have to be rooting for Dallas in this one, right? I can't root for them. So I'll just abstain from watching the football game, or I'll watch it and like not root. But like if the Cowboys win, the Eagles hold the tiebreaker to be the 2 seed. So they'll have the home playoff game if they win out.
Dallas winning actually benefits the Eagles more because because the Eagles and Lions have the same record right now, so it makes the Eagles' path to the 2 seed a lot easier. I will never root for the Cowboys. I will predict them to win, and I do give them credit when they do good things. I said it earlier in the show. They're becoming like they're not this bad yet, but they're becoming like the Atlanta Falcons. They are night and day when they're away from home, like night and day. You look at the best game, some of the best games. I don't care if it's a good competition. When they play at home, they beat almost everybody. You put them on the road against a crappy team, and they could lose. They just don't play well away. That being said, they're home. I'm going to agree with Gene on this one. I think Dallas wins. If I had to pick, I think they actually probably cover. It's -6 right now. I think they probably win between 7 and 10 points. I think Detroit will go in there and play well. But I think, coming off a loss, a hungry team at home, still has a chance to win the division, bleak as it is. But I think Dallas takes care of business down in Jerry World.
You have the New Orleans. We got to talk about the game. It's an important game for the standings. The New Orleans Saints are playing at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Guys, I hate doing this, right? My gut, my mind, every single piece of my body tells me that Tampa is the better football team. But I'm telling you, New Orleans is going to win the football game. It's a Vegas line that you just know it when you see it. Tampa's the better football team. They just came off blowing out Jacksonville. They're on this huge roll. They won at Green Bay. They won that. They won like 3 or 4 straight. They look great. New Orleans is reeling. They don't look that great. The spread's 2.5 in Tampa. It's
Yeah,
2.5.
It's 2.5, 3. I saw 3. I think it's down to 2.5 now, though. But I mean, listen, it's a divisional rivalry game, so I mean, you always get this at the end of the year. I'm going with my mind, my eyes, my head, whatever. I think Tampa Bay wins the game because
I hope you're right. It's not one of those I'll stay away from completely because everything tells me the Bucs are better, except the spread. Like that spread should be 4.5, 5, and I would comfortably pick Tampa Bay. Like
I get it.
3 points for the home team, and you're telling me that the Buccaneers aren't a point or 2 points better than the New Orleans Saints? Why is it 2.5? You're telling me on a neutral field, New Orleans is a half a point better? Nah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. It's dirty. It's a dirty line. I got news for you. When you watch that game at 1:00 on Sunday, Baker completes a 35-yard pass to Mike Evans. Holding offense, number 77. It's a 10-yard penalty. We're going to replay first down.
This game will definitely fall into the category. It's good for the NFL if New Orleans wins this football game.
Yeah, because it makes next week completely matter. The Saints play Atlanta and the Bucs play Carolina. And, if Atlanta beats the Saints and the Bucs win, every game matters.
I'm still going to go with the Bucs. I think they're better. I'm going to hope that wins out. I think New Orleans is reeling. I think they have a lot of drama. I think Dennis Allen's name is starting to show up a lot on these lists, that guys that I think a lot of people thought were safe that might not be back next year. The Derek Carr experiment there has not worked. So I think they have some issues going on as well. That defense has started to show its age the last month or so. I will go with the Bucs at home.
Bucs win the game, they win the division, and that's the reason that I'm not picking them. By the way, another crazy game. The Cincinnati Bengals are playing the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a game we got to talk about. It's 2 playoff teams. I don't want to talk about it because it's not a fun game. What's wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs? I got to give Godfrey his credit. Godfrey nailed this a month ago. Nailed it. And now everybody else is picking it up, and Godfrey's messaging me and be like, they stole it. They listened to what I said and they stole it. They didn't steal it. They just were a month behind you. I doubt they heard you enough to steal it. But he nailed it. This Kansas City Chiefs team reminds me of the 2003 Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, granted, Mahomes and Kelsey are better than McNabb and Selleck. Or not Selleck. What was it? Chad Lewis back then? But it's the exact same thing. They don't value wide receivers. Instead, they have Jim Johnson's understudy as their defensive coordinator. It's thrashing Pinkston all over again. I look at this football team and I see a team that isn't valuing the wide receiver, and their offense is showing. And that Kansas City football team, and this past week, what were they doing? Did you watch those back-to-back touchdowns the Raiders defense had?
I did.
They snapped it to a running back who handed it to Mahomes, who fumbled it for a touchdown. If you're going to snap it to a running back and hand the ball to Mahomes, I don't know, crazy idea. Why don't we just snap it to Mahomes? Is it really that, creative to snap it to the running back and have the running back hand it to the quarterback who doesn't receive handoffs? What was creative about that?
That to me though is starting to show signs of a desperate team.
It's so bad.
It's.
I mean, I'll tell you, screaming at people. I'll tell you right now. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. Kelsey retires at the end of this year. He's done. Travis is done. I don't guarantee he's done.
Here's what I'll say. I know there's a lot of that coming up, and a lot of people want to point the fingers at certain things. I will tell you this is what's happened this year with him. He has this amazing podcast with his brother that is raking in money. I think he's found something, away from football in Taylor that is, we all go through it. If you're lucky to go through it, you go through it in life where you find that person in your life that makes you look at things differently and change your perspective on your future. Not saying it is Taylor, but what I'm saying it is, I think he's finally starting to look at, that next chapter in life. And I don't think his head's 100% in football right now. I will say it's the Kelsey thing. I'll tell you what else I've seen that over the last 3 weeks. And again, this is starting to show the cracks and everything. I think that team overall is soft. And I don't think Patrick Mahomes has been a very good leader the last couple of weeks.
No.
No. He's been yelling, by the way,
Matt people. Comments keep coming up because Matt Nagy's back there as their OC.
Yeah.
I think they're missing Eric Bieniemy a little bit. I think Eric Bieniemy at least challenged Patrick Mahomes. They got in arguments, they got in fights, but he challenged him.
But tell me Eric Bieniemy doesn't look like the smartest guy in the room right now either, because he goes, let me look at what's coming back on this offense next year. Like, okay, like I get it. I have this shiny thing that everybody wants in Patrick Mahomes. I have the best tight end in football. But after that, what do I have? Like, what am I working with this next year? So I'll spin this in my direction for my narrative and say, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself to go to Washington because nobody's taking me seriously as a head coaching candidate here. I'm not getting stuck in what he probably saw coming this year, to your point, with not investing a goddamn dime for anybody that can catch a football or get open. And I'm going to go to Washington, prove myself, which, again, I think we all think he did. And I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. and here he is.
Does he not look like the smartest guy in the room, though?
He does to me.
Sam Howell up until like last week was the leader in the NFL in passing yards.
Yeah. And not that it matters, but I mean, he's still a top 10 fantasy quarterback, I believe. I mean, it's Washington. You can't tell me that Washington doesn't look better this year offensively than they did last year. You just can't.
You're absolutely correct.
And everybody knows Ron Rivera is a defensive coach. So who are you giving the credit to?
You're absolutely correct. Thank you for seeing things from my point of view. I'm kidding. But like, you're right. You're absolutely correct.
I think that team is soft this year. And I think, and again, people.
I think there's a shot Cincinnati beats them. I swear to you.
I agree. I agree.
Ever lay that 7.5. You're out of your mind if you're laying that 7.5. What are you watching?
Not the way they're
Even
playing.
if they cover, it's not a good bet. Don't lay the 7.5. That's a crazy number for that team to be laying right now.
Everybody's like, oh, they're coming off a loss. They're home, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I mean, Cincinnati's not playing bad. They're getting Jamar Chase back this week. You're nuts. Again, if you win the bet, more power to you. It doesn't mean it was a good way to spend your money.
Correct. You're absolutely right. Last game on the docket this week to preview before we get into pick'em is the game of the week. And once again, I felt like we were talking about this every week with Philadelphia Eagles being in the game of the week. We're talking about it again with the Baltimore Ravens. And this is a fun one. You got the Miami Dolphins and the Baltimore Ravens essentially playing for the 1 seed. I think that's how that works. Right now, the Ravens they're 1 game behind, so they'd have the head-to-head. I don't know if a 3-way tie could happen anywhere. No, it can't. So this is for the 1 seed. The Miami Dolphins at the Baltimore Ravens for the number 1 overall seed. After the win that Baltimore just had, this is another one of those weird ones, right, Bill? This is another one of those weird ones where it's 3.5 is the spread. It's in Baltimore. It's for the 1 seed. Baltimore just came off kicking the shit out of guys. Just follow my crazy tinfoil hat logic, and you're probably going to make some money this week. Baltimore comes off this crazy blowout win over San Fran, who everyone crowned. Lamar is your favorite for MVP. They come home with a chance to lock up the 1 seed, and they're 3.5-point favorites.
I will tell you. I'll tell you what influenced that line. In general too. I think also Miami coming off a huge home emotional win over Dallas, who a lot of people thought Dallas was going to go in there and win that football game, because Dallas's defense, this and that. Miami went out and handled business, relatively easy. I think I will tell you why it's a little bit different for me. Baltimore obviously plays well at home, and I also think. That is there's a lot of people, they have good leadership on that team. They play very well for Harbaugh. They always have a great locker room. That is a very together team. I don't think they have, the huge letdown that we're used to seeing. Because I am with you on that. Like, that's one thing we've always agreed upon. I don't care who you are. It happens all the time. You see teams have a huge win and the next week they suck.
Yeah.
And it's because everything that Gene just mentioned. I don't see it this week because I think both these teams are in the same boat. I will take the home team. I think Baltimore locks up the 1 seed. And even if they don't, I think it's interesting week 7 or week 18 because Miami would still have to go home then and beat Buffalo.
Baltimore's got to play at Pittsburgh for essentially the Mike Tomlin record.
Correct. So
that's what it's going to be. I actually think that Miami wins the football game, and then next week Buffalo beats Miami, and Baltimore backs into the 1 seed, and it makes all the games relevant. Dude, I'm sorry, my tinfoil hat's on. It's on strong.
So you're going straight chaos then this week.
100%. It's what I want.
I think Baltimore wins a very good football game on Sunday.
By the way, the Detroit Lions losing to the Dallas Cowboys creates absolute chaos too in the NFC. So I think Dallas wins. Guys, tinfoil hat Gene is ready. He's ready. Every game matters. NFL will listen. Hopefully, come playoff time, it's not like we're gonna make every game matter. But guys, be honest with yourself. Do you think the NFL is gonna allow that to happen?
Tinfoil hat parlay will be in effect on Saturday.
100%. 100%. All right.
Listen, I mean, you got to be a fool not to not see some of it. So, not saying it's all going to come true, but
well, I'm going to give you my picks. Right now, you're ahead. I went 1-2 last week. What did you go last week?
2-1.
Yeah, because we went against each other on 2 games, and I lost both of them.
Yeah. Another game the game against I went against Cottrell. That's the game I lost.
So I'll go first. You go second for Pick'em this week. We'll have our records updated next week. I'm going to start in Baltimore. Give me the Dolphins plus 3.5 over Baltimore. If they lose the game, they lose it by a field goal. I think Waddle being out does hurt Miami, but I do think that the Baltimore Ravens will be riding that emotional high of winning that game at San Francisco, coming home cross country versus a Miami team that's playing for everything. Miami can essentially lock up the AFC East by winning the football game, even with next week to come. And I think that it's a perfect game for Miami to win, and then for Buffalo to win next week to get in the playoffs. So give me the Miami Dolphins plus 3.5. Next on the agenda, I love the Jets plus 7.5 over Cleveland on Thursday Night Football. I don't think the Jets win the football game. I think Cleveland finds a way to win the football game. But I'll give Robert Saleh credit, and that defense embarrasses every quarterback. They do a great job of absolutely destroying. And I just don't believe the Joe Flacco magic carpet ride can continue. I think that it's a low-scoring football game. I think it's an ugly football game. I think defenses rule. It could be 16-13, but that covers the 7.5. I think that Browns will win the football game, but I'll stick with the Jets plus 7.5. And then the last game on the docket. This is the Sean Payton prove-it game. I love the Broncos minus 3.5 versus the Chargers. I think the Broncos annihilate them, and Sean Payton gets to puff his chest. I think all the people that don't like Russell Wilson on that team, the Cortland Suttons, the Jerry Judys, they ball out this week. I think if you could pick up Jarrett Stidham in your fantasy league, it might be a good pickup. Hey, I might pick him up for fantasy Super Bowl. I'm riding Nick Mullen right now in my big money league, and I don't want to. So I'll take the Broncos minus 3.5 versus the Chargers.
All right. So I'm going to start in Houston. I'm going to take the Texans minus 4.5 at home against Tennessee. Tennessee's coming in banged up. Texans will get C.J. Stroud back this week. At home, they've been playing great football. D'Amico Ryans, that defense tuned up, be all in Will Levis's face all game long. I think they get back on track offensively, obviously with C.J. back behind center. Playing for their season. I don't see a letdown game here for Texans. I will take them minus 4.5. Second game is a game we already talked about. I'm taking Tampa Bay minus 2.5 at home over New Orleans. I know. Tinfoil hat, I get it. And part of me thinks it might be true, but I got to go with what I see. I think the Buccaneers are just a better team. I think they lock up the division this week. I think they get a little bit of a breather going into the playoffs. Last but not least, me and Gene are going to go head-to-head. Put the helmets together and clang them and see what happens. I'm taking the Ravens at home against Miami. I think both teams coming off a huge win. I think the letdown thing kind of evens itself out. I like Baltimore's defense a tad more than like Miami's. The Jalen Waddle thing I think matters because I think it makes playing defense for Baltimore a little bit easier when you don't have to defend both sides of the field deep. Give me Baltimore and make enough plays down the stretch. I will take the Ravens -3.
I want to give Bo some credit because I do love the Pats spread this week. Bailey Zappi, the Zappy machine. Their defense is playing great, and they're getting 13 points versus Buffalo. I think that game's a lot closer than 13-point game. So I'll take the Patriots +13 as a little bonus. I like the Jets spread too, and Dolphins, Cowboys money line. That's over a 10-1 parlay, Bose. I don't know what the numbers are on that, but check it out.
Yeah, for
sure. Taking a money line. But got to move into college football. We got 2 massive football games to go over the college football playoff. Before we go over them, Bill, is there any, and just help me, is there any other bowl games that we have to talk about? So, before next week, are we getting Georgia, Florida State? And, is that even a game to talk about with all the Florida State guys that have already opted out?
It's up to 19 now, too. So, I mean, I expect Georgia to whitewash that game. That spread and that money line continues to move. I think that's probably one of the safer bets and everything that's left. I'll actually say this. I think the Ohio State Missouri game has the ability to probably be the best game left in the docket. And that's I'm gonna preface this by saying that as of right now, Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka, Travion Henderson, all those guys. Nobody's declared that they're going to the draft. Nobody's actually come out and said they're coming back. And nobody's opted out of the game as of yet. Missouri is taking their full team there. So Schrader, all those guys, they are going to play. If Ohio State, wheels out their A team, minus the quarterback, but because Kyle McCord's already gone. But if they wheel that team out, that has the chance to be a very good football game. That's probably that's the one I would be the most excited to watch, other than the big ones.
Monday night, 5 p.m. The sun sets in Pasadena. The Rose Bowl, Michigan, Alabama. It's the best game, and it's in the best time on New Year's Day. It is like the time you're sitting down, whatever you eat. You might eat your pork roast. You might eat, I don't know what you eat. You might eat your prime rib, the ham, whatever you have. You got your dinner plate. What do you do? Do you have a New Year's Day tradition?
What is the New Year's Day tradition? I forget. Isn't it like something in cabbage or something? What is it? Keep going. I'll look it up.
I don't know, but I know New Year's Day, I'm going to have my dinner. 5 o'clock, I'm going to watch the sun be setting in Pasadena. It'll be 2 o'clock there. So you're basically going to get the second half kickoff with that sun dropping down, that beautiful look in Pasadena, California.
Pork and sauerkraut. That's what it is.
Pork. I'm not eating sauerkraut. Maybe pork. I'm not eating sauerkraut. You're out of your damn mind. Okay. But Alabama, Michigan. We are on the opposite sides of the fence. I know this already, and that's okay. If Michigan wins the football game, I feel even better about my national champion pick. You got Nick Saban versus Jim Harbaugh. Tell us how the game's going to go, shall we? Tell us how Michigan wins this football game.
So look at it. I think this is kind of a chess match game. All the forward lines came out, and whoever wins this game is going to be favored in the national championship game. To Gene's point, I think this is the better game. Both teams would be favored more over Washington than they were Texas, which kind of leads into Gene's point that he just made. I think it's interesting. I think it's going to whatever team can stay in their comfort zone in this game, I think it's a team that wins. If Michigan can run the ball, I think Michigan is going to control the clock, and I think that forces Jalen Milroe to throw the ball. That's not what Alabama wants to do. And vice versa on the other side, Alabama wants to get up, early and make Michigan come out of that shell and leave the game on the shoulders of J.J. McCarthy and make him throw the ball against those two elite corners that they have. And I think that's really what it boils down to. I think they both have great lines. I think Michigan's a little bit better on each side. I don't care what anybody says. I will take J.J. McCarthy over Jalen Milroe all day, twice on Sunday. You can give me the Georgia game all you want. The big plays in that game were made with his feet, not his arm. As much as we all love Georgia, that was I don't know how good Georgia is. That was Georgia's first real test of the year, and they lost the game. That was the first good team they played all year. You can slice it however you want.
You can't say that after saying Missouri. You can't say that after saying Missouri, Ohio State's going to be the best bowl game.
Okay,
you can't say
Missouri's not elite. I'll say it that way. Missouri's not elite.
There's only 5-6 elite teams in college football. And they lost by 3 to one of them.
Okay. And Michigan beat one of them. So, again, I think this is a very good football game. I think it's close. I think this game screams 20-17, 21-17, 24-20. I think that's where you're at. I don't think this is a high-scoring game. Both these defenses, I think the one thing that is a huge favor, I know Alabama has the 2 elite corners. Michigan has other guys that can catch the ball. Colston Loveland is going to be a huge mismatch for whoever tries to cover him on Alabama. Alabama does not have good receivers. Will Johnson's going to lock up somebody. We'll probably run Derek Morris on the other side. I like the matchups for Michigan's defense against Alabama's offense. I really do. I'm gonna, I'm gonna stay consistent. I think they're a little bit better at every aspect of the game. I think over the course of a game, you hope it plays out that way. The one, obviously Nick Saban's the more proven coach. That is the one check mark you can clearly put in Alabama's favor. I like Michigan 24-21, and I think that's where we're at.
My question for you is, how big of a loss for the Wolverines would it be that Zach Zinter isn't playing? Before I answer that, right? Because I think the key to this game is on Michigan's offense and Alabama's defense. I think Alabama will score 20 points. It's whether or not Michigan scores 17 or 24. Like, that's the way I see this football game going. And I think that difference is, does Dallas Turner get home? Does Chris Braswell get home? Does Alabama's edge rushers disrupt and keep J.J. McCarthy from getting outside of the pocket? Because Alabama has not been great against the run this year. In big moments, teams have been able to run the football against them all year. I think Corum has a good day. I really do. I believe that, right? I think the matchup is whether or not Alabama can stack the box or not versus – and they don't need – they can stack the box and stop the run if their edge rushers are getting home. And if Michigan's offensive line controls Alabama's edge rushers like they've controlled every other team now, with the example, I will give you this. The only team that they could not control their edge rushers was against Penn State. They couldn't control those edge rushers at all. So they just said, screw it. We're not throwing the football. And they ran the ball from the middle of the second quarter for the rest of the football game. They can't do that versus Alabama. They're going to have to control those edge rushers.
The only caveat in that game is the guy who played right tackle most of the year for the Wolverines did not start in that game. Miles Hilton started that game. That's been his issue. Anybody who could run, anybody that could be a speed rusher off the right side, he's had trouble controlling all year long. Hinton is not going to start. Is not going to start Monday. They will have Tyree back at right tackle. So it's I'm not arguing anything you said. I mean, again, I think I don't care if you're a huge Bama fan or a huge Michigan fan. You need to be very, very realistic what's going to happen on Monday. And everything that's been said on both sides of this argument are very true. And these little differences is what's going to make, these little things, I say it all the time, little things lead to big things. The team that wins these little tiny battles does these little tiny things better than the other football team is who's going to win on Monday. I
right.
think, I think a lot of people
Robinson just had his way though, and I get it. Michigan will have a different right tackle, but Chop was Chop in that game, and
that's okay.
You have a guy in Alabama that is. You're talking about if he's not, he's probably the third best edge rusher in this class in Dallas Turner.
So Michigan prefers to run the ball on the left side anyway. Obviously,
run at him, right?
That was inner side. Obviously, going to change. But what's going to do is the guy who played the kid who plays center all year is going to go to left guard. Their backup center is very good. He will be a fifth-year starter next year. So, can you replace Zach Zinner? No, you can't.
No. Probably the third best tackle in the country, if we're being honest.
Yeah, he's probably a guard in the NFL, but yes, he's an All-American. You just don't replace him. You just don't. So we'll everybody agree on that. They'd rather run the ball on the left side. That being said, they will pull Keegan from the right guard and they will run to the right. So when they run outside of the right, it's usually Donovan. It's usually Donovan Edwards. That's what they like to do. The only thing I disagree with what you said and how this game plays out is I actually think Donovan Edwards has the better game than Blake Corum, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't think they can. I think with some of the runs, you have to be able to have the advantage of the home run guy, and Blake rips off a lot of 40, 50-yard runs, but he gets caught all the time. Donovan is a guy that if he gets out into the open against, if you can get him to the second level and he's not touched, he's gone. You're not catching him. Like he gets to the middle of the field or gets outside your linebackers, it's problems. He's also the better. I think he's by far the better running back out of the backfield catching the ball. I think you will see Michigan screen a lot, which you don't normally see them do. I think you're going to see a lot of that Monday night. And I think that's going to be a lot of Donovan Edwards.
Can Michigan throw the ball at all versus Alabama?
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama's got probably the best corner in the country. They got one of the best safeties in the country.
Here's what I'll say. Alabama is very good at taking the deep away, which is not what Michigan wants to do anyway.
They want to control.
Correct. I think with the crosses and the ins that Cornelius and Roman Johnson and Roman Wilson run, I think they can complete the ball that. And like I said, Nick Saban, for as great as he is, he's already mentioned it twice that he knows the one huge advantage Michigan has is he is not, not that he said this in these words, but Colston Loveland is going to be a huge matchup problem for them. This is gonna be the Brock Bowers thing. Is he Brock Bowers? No, he's really damn good though. He's athletic. And then on top of that, Michigan runs the two tight ends.
This is the lightest Alabama linebacker room I've ever seen.
Ever.
I don't ever think they're good up front. They're good at the edge. They're good in the secondary. Their linebackers remind me of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's it's a totally different.
Michigan running the two tight end set, which they love to run. They also have A.J. Barner, who's got 600-700 yards receiving this year. They have two tight ends that catch the ball very, very well. And again, that's going to be the cat and mouse thing. And then again, on the other side, they have to keep Jalen Milroe in the pocket. If you do, and you make him throw the ball to beat you, he does not have the wide receivers to do it. Michigan has a great secondary in its own right. Will Johnson is going to lock somebody down. It's one cool thing you're going to see in this game.
You don't give Jermaine Burton any credit, do you?
No. But what I'm saying is you're going to see three elite NFL corners in this football game Monday night.
Right.
You're going to see three. So it is, that is advantage. Again, you're going to Rod Moore usually plays on the same side as Will Johnson. He's the guy who caught the interception to seal the Ohio State game. They try to run Harrison between the two of them. That side of the field is going to be gone. And if Milroe wants to throw the ball over there, you will see a pick. You saw Kyle McCord tested early. It was a huge play in the Michigan game. Both picks went to that side of the field.
Yeah.
Just tell you how it is. So it's again.
Are you confident?
Listen, I will say this. I have the nauseated, been here before. This has got to be our year type thing. I said before the year, way before this year, that this year was the year I thought they legit could make a run because everybody's going to be juniors and all that stuff. I still have anxiety about it because it's Alabama.
I will say this, Bill, because I love you and because I know how much it means to you, I'll be rooting I can't even say this out loud. It's like getting it out. But
I
like,
appreciate your support.
I'll be rooting for Michigan because I know it'll make you happy. And like, you're my friend. But like, my gut tells me Alabama wins the football game. I got it 23-17 Alabama. I think it'll be a great football game, regardless of how you look at it. But internally, I might be rooting for Michigan just because a friend of mine would be really happy to get to watch them in the national championship.
It gets back to the point, like, we've talked about all the time, like, lifelong thing for us, is to watch the Eagles, see the Eagles win the Super Bowl. We got that. We were both at a great age when the Phillies won the World Series. We got that. I'm still waiting on the Flyers, obviously, and the Sixers. I know you are as well. That the other team that is in that same, group for me is obviously Michigan. So
Villanova men's basketball is the one for me.
Yeah, and we've got to see that twice. We were
the national championship with Chris Jenkins hitting that game.
North Carolina
forever replayed in my mind.
Yes,
I went nuts. So yeah,
correct. And it's the same thing. We were spoiled with Jay Wright for all those years, and a little school, that to win 2 national championships is mind boggling. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did, to be honest. But that being said, this is like a lifelong bucket list thing for me. So, to see it, it kind of makes, everything that happens going forward, the rest of my life kind of, playing with house money if they never win another one.
I love it. I love it for you. Let's move on to the 8:45 game because this will be a fireworks affair. I actually think this might be the more fun football game to watch. You got Daddy Quinn, Quinn Ewers, Xavier Worthy, the Texas Longhorns, Hook'em Horns. By the way, I will be for your sake, right? If Washington wins this football game, I'll probably be rooting for Michigan to win the title. But versus Michael Penix Jr., Roma Duzier, and the Washington Huskies that just don't seem to know how to lose. They just don't seem to know how to lose. And it's going to be a good football game. It'll be a fun, explosive, offensive football game. I'm going Texas, obviously. I picked them to win the Natty. I think they win this game. I think Texas's defense is a shade better than Washington's defense. And I think that's the difference in this football game. I think Texas as a whole, I think both offenses won't be stopped. I don't think Washington's defense will be able to slow down an NFL-style quarterback in Quinn Ewers, an NFL-style wide receiver in Xavier Worthy, and I think you're going to see Texas go up and down the field on them. I think that the difference will be Texas's defense will get a few stops on Michael Penix Jr., and Texas wins this one 34-27.
So, obviously, if you're a traditionalist, the Rose Bowl is going to be for you. That is going to be, banging helmets, 4 yards, every foot matters type thing. If you like the entertaining, backyard style football, the Sugar Bowl is going to be for you. I don't agree with anything you said. I want to pick Texas so bad because I truly
you don't agree with anything I said.
No, I agree with everything you said.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what did I do wrong? And I think the fact that the game's being played in the Superdome really plays into Texas's hands. I think they'll have more home crowd there, and I think the carpet will do them justice defensively.
I think it's an advantage for both of them, though, because we saw how Washington, those 2 games where they had to play in the rain and kind of inclement weather, they look drastically different. So, that part of it I do like because neither one of these offenses is going to have an excuse. Like it's like you said, it's going to be dry. You're going to be a carpet. It's going to be fast. It obviously plays to the offensive advantage on both sides. So, the thing that I have to be honest with you, Gene, the thing that keeps gnawing at like the back of my head is how resilient Washington is.
They are resilient. Resilient.
I think I look at them on paper. I agree with you. I think Texas is a little bit better. I love Worthy. I've said it before. I hate that he plays for Texas. He was originally a Michigan guy, and he couldn't get in because of academics. So he went to Texas. So I've followed that kid for a long time. I know how good he is. If you're asking me to pick quarterbacks, Michael Penix. The story is great and everything. Give me Quinn Ewers. The one thing that I think is, and I heard this brought up today, and it kind of made me think even a little bit more. Does Washington come out and try to play Texas the way they played Oregon? And if they do, that changes it a little bit for me. If they come out and they try to run the ball, and if they're successful, and you can run the ball against Texas,
you can. Texas can't stop the run at all. Like what Washington did versus Oregon by running the ball with Dylan Johnson like 28 times in that football game. That's the funny part, right? Do not give the head coaching matchup the advantage to Washington. Like, is that not the big?
So here's what I'm going to say. To a casual fan, they probably know who Steve Sarkisian is. Okay? He's been around longer. If you don't, and Alex, you probably should mute this again because you're going to get upset. Kalen DeBoer's outcoached Dan Lanning twice. It is what it is. Alex, yes. I love you. I'm sorry. It's just a fact of the matter. Oregon came out with the same game plan that they thought they were gonna get the first time, and Kalen DeBoer said, "Nope." To your point, here comes Dylan 32 times. We're gonna keep the ball. We're gonna run the ball between the tackles and see if you can stop us. And they couldn't. A part of me thinks they're going to do that. And here's the flip side of that. Texas, I don't think Texas gets enough credit for being as resilient as they are. They lost Quinn Ewers for a couple games in the middle of the season. They then lost their all-world running back, Brooks after that. That being said, they still have looked shakier to me, even with Quinn coming back without Brooks. And that is the part that is nagging at the back of my head. I want to pick Texas. I don't know what it is. Call it, intuition, whatever you want to call it. There's just part of me that thinks Washington's going to win the football game.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I guess the beauty of this is we'll all get to find that out.
We do.
We're going to wrap up college football. I just want to give a quick, brief synopsis on the NBA Christmas Day games before we kind of give a wrap up. We'll have our full wrap up show with our awards next week for the year in review. We always wait until after the New Year's Day games, New Year's Eve games to kind of do that. And Cottrell will be back. So I do want to give like a little bit of a New Year's send off. I'm sure you do too. Yeah. But I kind of want to just the NBA games that were on Christmas Day. I think I picked everyone right except the 76ers.
Which was
because JoJo didn't play. We didn't know that. There's a lot of talk about Joel Embiid never wanting to play in that basketball game.
I don't believe that.
Well, he had announced to the team that he wanted a plane to fly into Miami the day of because he wanted to spend Christmas morning at home with his family. And then he falls on the ground in the first quarter Friday night, plays the rest of the game, scores 30 points, and then he can't play in the game. He's hurt. And I don't want to get too far into that. Like, once again, tinfoil hat Gene, not trying to get crazy. But if we're being honest with ourselves, I nailed Christmas Day. Jalen Brunson and that Knicks team is solid, man. I really love the way they're playing. The Celtics, are the Celtics the best team in basketball?
I mean,
I hate saying it, but it's the truth, right?
I agree. I hate giving Boston credit for anything. Who are you giving me? What is your counter argument? I'll say that, and I don't think you can come up with a good one.
I don't think you can either. They're 23-6. The closest record to them is the Minnesota Timberwolves. You're not making that argument. The closest record in the East, the Milwaukee Bucks, and they're not there yet.
Nope.
They could get there. They're not there yet. I think that the Boston Celtics are the best team in basketball. And I think when you watch that Christmas Day game, they almost toyed with the Lakers. And like nothing against the Lakers, like whatever, but they almost toyed with them. They won a game by 11. But but it never felt like it was in jeopardy. And Anthony Davis played out of his mind.
They could have won that game by
That's the way
20 if
to
they wanted
beat
to.
Boston, by the way, and the Lakers showed you have to have a big that's a dominant presence. And as long as Joel Embiid gets bullied by Al Horford every time they play.
Well, I think the difference is that, you would think it's going to be Porzingis, but I mean,
they'll move Porzingis for Embiid.
They'll probably have to. Well, he's a stronger guy. JoJo will put Porzingis in the second row every time if he wants to.
But, I mean, the Nuggets looked like the Nuggets. I got to give the Warriors credit. They hung around. They played a good basketball game. It was fun to watch. Steph shot awful, but the rest of the team played well.
Yeah.
Wiggins is starting to look like Wiggins again. Chris Paul's looking great on that second team. I said this earlier, and I'll say it again. I think that the Warriors still aren't there yet, but I think they could get there. But the one game I really wanted to touch on was the 14-15 Phoenix Suns, who got absolutely blown out the gym again by Luka Doncic, who dropped a 50 bomb. And Kevin Durant rumors already about wanting to get out of Phoenix. I just need to hear your thoughts on that.
So I'm going to be very blunt about the Kevin Durant stuff. I know we joke about it on the show, and some of it's true about him being the softest player and having his burner accounts and all that stuff. That's all good and fun. And, I think soft too, but I find myself going from this being, I get all that, but he's still ... to I am firmly kind of getting planted into, I want Kevin Durant to shut the hell up and play basketball and stopped acting like he's like one step away from James Harden. Like, bro, you're forcing yourself out of places and you want to go to where you want to go. Like, the trade got held up for almost 6 months because you wouldn't go anywhere other than Phoenix. And now you're there with two other guys that have max contracts, and now you're complaining because the team is not good enough. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, I'm very, very quickly, as great as he is, he's probably going to end up being a top 20 player of all time. But I'm getting very tired of the act. I'm getting very tired of the bitching. Man up and play some basketball or go away. Like, that is quickly the camp that I'm falling into with Kevin Durant.
Dude, I couldn't agree with you more. I think KD is one of the softest superstars to ever play the game. And I root for him to lose all the time. And I'm so glad that Chris Paul isn't on that team anymore because I root for Chris to win. So, like, knowing that that he went there to play with Chris and they made the move for Beal and watching that train wreck happen. I don't like Booker either. I used to like Booker and the way he handled himself like a baby over the Luka Doncic stuff. I stopped liking Booker. So, like, that Suns team is just fun to root against. The super team and everything that's going on, I love watching them lose. The demise of the Suns makes me smile.
It's funny because they have the super team moniker. So they're getting everybody's best game every time they come into the gym. But, like, Bradley Beal's played, 8 games?
Yeah.
And they don't have the mental makeup to kind of be like, to be like the Warriors were, or like the old school Bulls. Like, okay, like, you're going to get our best shot. Like, all right, we'll take it and we'll beat you. That is not the mental makeup of that team. It's just not.
Do you have you got to be kidding me this week?
I have stupid little ones, but
I'd rather you give your New Year's Day salute because we literally are running up against it. We have 4 minutes left. So if whatever you say, New Year's salute, I'm just giving a quick, you got to be kidding me, to Micah Parsons for his tweet about Brock Purdy. And listen, I never agree with Deebo Samuel, but the way he fired back was perfect. Didn't we beat you guys by 25 points? Didn't we put 42 up on you? And then his comments about, the officiating and him holding calls. Like, Micah, dude, you got to shut up and just play football and stop bitching. But that's my you got to be kidding me this week. Let me just.
I got a silly one too. I'm just gonna go with Denzel Burke from Ohio State. Just oh man, he could have kept quiet. Somebody asked him about the Michigan game. Kind of came out and said it was the ref's fault that Michigan won, bro. It's 3 years in a row now. You guys have literally chosen a different thing every year to blame it on. It's getting old. You guys just lost. Just move on, play a good bowl game, and get ready for the pros. So that would be mine this week.
You gotta be kidding me.
I wanted to play it for you.
All right.
New Year's Day. Go. We got a minute.
All right. So this I will keep this a little bit shorter. So I would say this. I know a lot of people, some people really get into New Year's resolutions, some people don't. My advice to you is if it works for you, do it. It does for me. I know Gene's a very goal-oriented guy. Don't let anybody tell you it's stupid. Don't let anybody tell you it's corny. Don't let anybody do that. If it's something that makes you become a better person at this time next year, do it. If you think it works for you, do it. I had kind of, harder decisions than normal, that I've made this year. I'm a better person for it. I've gotten myself away from a lot of stupid drama and people that are just constantly, live on the drama and all that crap. And I've kind of removed myself from it. I'm a happier person for it. Don't let anybody tell you that nothing's unattainable. Don't let anybody tell you that, your goals for the year are unattainable. Try to make yourself the best version of yourself in 2024. That's what I would tell everybody. I hope everybody has a healthy, happy new year. God forbid if you're drinking, we say this every year. I don't go out. If you're a friend of mine or a friend of Gene's or anybody, you need a ride home, please don't hesitate to call or text. Please don't be a person, that we wake up and we find out that you got in a bad accident or something like that, because you were stupid. Too many good ways to get home. Everybody have a great, healthy, happy new year. Enjoy the football. Enjoy your friends. If you're going to a party, family, enjoy the food, as long as it's not pork and sauerkraut. That's disgusting. But just enjoy yourselves. Be safe. And set yourself up for success in 2024. It's what everybody should try to do. Be the best version of yourself and set whatever goals it's going to take to be that. So that's my New Year's rant for this year.
I'm not going to go on a rant. I'm just going to say a couple comments and then we're going to wrap up. But every year, for the last 4 years, I've been basically just massively depressed heading into the holidays. This is the best I've felt in 5 years since 2018. And I feel great. And I advise you to walk into the New Year's with such a positive mindset and a great mentality about moving forward and achieving your goals. You can do it 100%. We're going to do it. We have huge goals for the Wire2Wire Sports Network next year. And we appreciate everybody that hops in here. We will have our year in review show next week. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I wish you guys a happy, safe, and healthy new year. I do not drink either. So if you need a ride, you got my number. And with that, I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. That's Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, and we are signing